So just to continue on a little bit about Kahoot, this is what it looks like when you actually have a question, and you might ask, here are the all my angles are equal and all my sides are the same length. What quadrilateral am I? And you have different shapes on here, but the student only has the shapes on their screen. They don't have the answers, which is kind of, I think, a drawback in some cases. They have to match the shape to what they see on the screen. And so you do have to run Kahoot, off a screen. But yeah, once you do that, you can have students responding to the questions, and he shows what's on the phone or what's on the device, and they have chosen one, and some more answers have been responded in this type of system. And then when it's done, yeah, he talks about it, and it shows who has responded well. And then it also gives a score, like who got the highest score out of the response. So you have your entire class responding to this and doing different activities, and it lists, who is the quickest to get the right answer. And then as you go through, there are more and more questions, and it's very competitive. Students really get into this type of system and really like to respond with Kahoot. So that's a little bit more about that tool. I did want to show Polleverywhere as well during this week's content, so I'm just going to go to My Polls here. Okay, so Polleverywhere, you can go to polleverywhere.com, and this allows students to respond with any device as well, kind of like Kahoot. It's more of a grown-up type thing though. You notice that Kahoot kind of has the bright colors, and it's kind of simple, and it really engages younger students. I would suggest Kahoot. It works well up into even middle school. But maybe if you're looking for something a little more grown up, so to speak, then Polleverywhere might be what you're looking for. And Socrative is much the same way. And I probably won't demo Socrative this week, but if you're interested in that, that's a great other learning tool. And in fact, one thing that Socrative has that none of these other tools does is the ability to do something that's not live. So you can actually go to Socrative and have students fill out a survey or a questionnaire or a quiz anytime they want to. And in fact, it can be more like a learning module where they go through and answer questions. Maybe it's during a time when other students are working on something else. So it doesn't have to be live, which is nice. But for the assignment, it's going to be a live activity, and it's going to be part of your class experiences. So if I go to Polleverywhere and I hit create, I can create a whole bunch of different types of questions, which is nice. You can have word clouds. So basically you can ask students to describe something, and then a word cloud of the words that they use can pop up. You can have questions and answers. You can have rank orders. You can have a clickable image. And in fact, you can ask students, for instance, to identify the crocodile in the picture versus the alligator, or tell where Columbus, Ohio is on the map, and they would have to click on the map to determine where it is as a response. And you can do a survey. That just means there are no right or wrong questions, or an open-ended type experience too, where students can just respond to the lesson today. So that might be something you might ask them: how did the lesson go today? What could make it more clear? And they could respond and put the answers up there. And I'm just going to show a multiple choice one. Those of you who have been in my classes before, you know that I like to use this question. Not for any good reason, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, what color was George Washington's white horse? And you can have various options. And you can just enter plus to enter more options if you need to. Obviously, we need the correct answer, so I better put white. And go ahead and do that. And then create. Now, Polleverywhere, there's not really a check mark for the right answer, so you kind of do have to explain that yourself as a teacher, like white was the correct answer. But Polleverywhere is kind of built from this idea of being a survey. So yeah, the idea is that you can have students respond in various ways and maybe justify their response or talk about their response a little bit. Now that I've created the question, because I have my account set up to connect to a website, which they allowed for free, and also to text, I can push this out to the web, and I can allow students to respond to it. So any student right now could go to this website or could text Thai 2014 to 37607 wants to join, and then A, B, C, or D after that to be a part of this poll. And they could start responding anytime now, and the responses would pop up here in a nice bar graph. And hopefully we get a lot of whites to get this correct. So what I could have them do is respond to this question. Then as a teacher, if it was about my subject area, I could respond and say, okay, well, it looks like most of us got it right. It was white, but why did you put blue or brown or the wrong answer, and talk about why that's not the correct answer and those kinds of things. You can also, this is important, you can also hide the chart so that it doesn't show how people are responding as the poll is live. Because what it will do is, if you don't hide it, it will show this bar graph of how many people are responding white, and then the rest of the students who don't know the answer might also respond white because they see everyone else responding that way. So that's something to avoid as well. And yeah, it's basically just runs that way, and it's kind of a nice tool as well. And I've used it in my university classes and in other situations as well, presentations and so forth. And by the way, you can create groups of questions, so you don't just want to create one question maybe, but you can create a whole group of them. Go back to your polls, go ahead and hit create, and you can create more questions or more response options. And again, students can respond just using any device that connects to the internet. So that's Polleverywhere, and hopefully that gives you just a basic overview. I mean, it's not meant to be in-depth. Some of your learning for these tools is going to have to take some in-depth learning, you know, going into the systems, creating a few sample questions like the discussion board this week asks for, and testing them out a bit. But I do encourage you to stretch yourself a little bit too and learn a new system if you already know a bunch of these, or to learn a different way of using a system that you already know, so that there's some stretching going on and learning going on during this unit. Okay, well, have a great week.